Welcome back, everybody, to Ravenstar's Witching Hour. I'm your host, Hilarious Blue Raven, and I'm here with my very special guest, John Savage. And, John, you with me?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. I was looking at your picture here, and it's so cool with the storm cloud on your icon. Yeah, where did you get that one? Is that recent?
I do storm chasing in the spring and summertime.
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually storm chasing that day.
Wow. So what does the storm chasing entail?
Driving like an idiot during rainstorms and chasing tornadoes.
Oh, that's reckless.
Yeah. No, I actually, I'm with Skywarn up here in Minnesota, so I go out to tornado spotting for the Weather Service.
Oh, nice. Wow. I bet that's fascinating. You obviously take footage, right?
Yeah, I usually just take pictures, and I just like doing it. I love the energy from the storms,
mm-hmm.
the feel of being near a tornado. And this is going to sound really corny to everyone, but the energy that it gives off mm-hmm. is so amazing. It kind of puts your life in perspective, that you have this awesome thing from nature in front of you. It doesn't care if you're rich or poor, black or white. It doesn't care. It's there. Mm-hmm. And it kind of puts a lot of things into perspective about life.
Absolutely. What does it feel like, energetically speaking?
It's almost like you're eating a big pixie stick. And you get that sugar rush from it.
Mm-hmm.
It's such it's a really hard feeling to explain. It's just a powerful energy.
Mm-hmm. Does it have an electrical charge to it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You know,
you can feel it.
Yeah. Interesting. You know, it reminds me of like elementals being harnessed. What's your impression of them being living entities?
I think they're out there.
Mm-hmm. But do you think the storms take on the form of those entities, or no?
No, I think that's what I think it is. It's Earth
mm-hmm.
recharging everybody, recharging the environment, kind of doing its own cleansing, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Of that location.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Wow. Yeah, that's pretty wild. Well, you know, just keep your distance from those, I guess, huh? They move fast.
Oh, yeah. I'm always safe. I kind of stay on the backside, and, you know, then afterwards I might go to a cemetery and do some EVPs to see if the energy from the environment changes.
Oh, interesting. Does it?
Haven't had any luck yet.
Wow, that's an interesting correlation if it does.
I'm still working on it. That's one of my goals for this year.
Wow, it sounds like you have a lot of good projects on the back burner, you know.
Oh, yeah. And, you know, it all comes down to research. It comes down to the love of history. It comes down to expanding your mind.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And tuning into those forces that are all over the map right now. Have you noticed an increase in the tornadoes and things like that? Has it been more extreme, or is it just about the same as it's always been?
You know, I'm not sure. Up here in Minnesota, we don't get a lot of tornadoes, and this year's been really, really poor for tornado outbreaks. So I haven't really sat down and do any data logging.
Mm-hmm.
But every time I go out and there is a severe storm or a tornado, I try and do an EVP session. As long as I'm in a safe area and there's a cemetery nearby.
Right. I think that's a good idea. Yeah, for sure. So when you're doing an investigation on somebody's property, I know you said we were talking about the power lines before the show, before we went to a break.
Mm-hmm.
So you're checking out the power lines. Is it the power lines that are connecting into the property, or are they on the property, or how does that work?
Well, we look at the power lines that's going through the property. So if you have these high power lines, you know, the ones with the big steel girders look like giant robots.
Right, yeah.
They give off a lot of EMF energy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been proven that high EMF will give the person the feeling of being watched, of being paranoid, of having unusual feelings or sensations. So we have to look at that as a possible cause. Just because something goes bump in the night doesn't mean it's paranormal.
Right.
As a true investigator, you have to look at all possibilities.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, that's fascinating. So those would be the main ones. And what about ley lines? Have you ever looked into the ley lines on property or connecting into property or parallels or anything like that?
Several times I have. There was one case that I worked on over in England at a place called the Rams Inn, which is on top of, I think it's like 4 or 5 different ley lines that intersects at the house.
Wow.
And the energy in that, when those lines intersect, is just amazing. It's just like a big portal. And this is one of the most haunted homes in the UK.
In a good way, or are they good spirits, or?
Yes and no. It's also built on top of a pagan burial site.
Ooh, okay.
So you have a lot of that energy there. There's a lot of witchcraft in this area where this town is. Mm-hmm. There were witches in the house, which was also used by the Catholic Church.
Ooh, bad combination.
Yeah. I mean, in this house, there's an incubus.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I think you told me about this. Didn't one of those go after you one time?
Yeah. My wife and I were laying in the bed. We just got in and we're trying to settle down, and we could feel the bed just vibrating. And that was the only time that I was at a haunted location with my shoes on, and the light's still on, and I wouldn't go to sleep, and half my gear still packed.
Oh, how funny.
Just in case I need to make an exit to the car.
So obviously it's the real deal.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
But yeah,
go ahead.
The ley lines do play a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so does, if there's streams nearby, underwater, underground water pipes.
Right.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that you have to look into.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So the streams, would it be the streams running, you say on the property? Is it a certain direction that they have to be running to create maybe what we call maybe a bad feng shui or something, or how does that work?
It has to be running close to the property itself.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Within 100 yards of the house.
Okay.
And this has to be natural springs, natural rivers, not, underground sewage pipes and things like that. That's not the energy that we're looking for. Right. We're looking for pure earth energy that will help transmit the spirits from point A to point B.
Right, and those would be more of a conductor, right? So the water acts as a conductor, or how does that work?
Correct.
Wow, that's fascinating. Yeah. What about rock formation? Oh, go ahead.
And also, if you have an area that has high iron ore, iron ore conducts electricity.
Right.
Or quartz.
Right.
Granite. So, there's a lot of things from the metaphysical side that we need to look at, but also from the scientific side, we have to look at, like I said, power lines. Is there a gas leak? Is there drugs being used in the house?
Right.
Carbon monoxide issues. So there's a lot that we have to look at as investigators before we can jump to the conclusion, hey, might be a spirit here.
Right. Well, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, I like the idea you break it all down on a rational level and then go to the next level in the paranormal. That makes a whole lot of sense to me. So insofar as the historical homes go, what do you think they're made out of? I mean, what is there anything in the material of the building itself that would attract these spirits?
No. I mean, most of the homes, they're wood frames, balloon frame houses. Some of them have stone, brick. I don't think it really matters too much of the type of material. But some people say that, if you use a certain type of stone, it absorbs the energy of the house and then it gets released. I think that the house is just like a memory box. It's the spirits that have returned to the house. It's not because of the house itself. It's something about the location that brought the spirits back. Maybe the house gave them happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And to them, that's their heaven.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And that's why they have returned. Now, you have cases where, let's say there was a murder-suicide.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that's not a happy place to go to.
Mm-hmm.
Once you're dead. But the spirits will return to that location.
So is that more of a traumatic imprint? Is this something that pulls them in?
I think it's more of the soul is still in shock.
Mm-hmm.
That once the soul left the body after the shooting, they never left the house.
Interesting.
And I think also religion will come into play. And I'll give you an example. One of our members in our group lives in a house where a murder-suicide took place.
Oh, wow.
The husband, it was a very I think it was a Catholic family. The wife was very dominant in the relationship. He always stayed in the basement. He kind of, did what his wife told him to do, didn't mess up the house. And one day he snapped. He came up from the basement. His wife was sitting on a couch and just shot her.
Oh, gee.
The cops came, and as the cops came up, he shot himself.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when we investigated this house, we did some EVPs, and some of the EVPs that we got was of a woman saying, "He shot me."
Oh, my goodness. Wow.
Then down in the basement, we got a mail saying, "Tell Michael, I'm sorry." Michael was the shooter's son.
Did you find this information out before or afterwards?
This was afterwards. I take that back. We knew there was a murder-suicide because it was affecting the client's children. They kept one of the children were seeing an MP in the basement with a disfigured face.
Oh, wow.
Which would make sense if the guy took a pistol and put it in his mouth and pulled the trigger, his face would be basically almost blown off.
Mm-hmm.
So we came in just to deal with that.
Right.
And she wasn't leaving because this was her house, and she was upset. He couldn't leave the basement because he was afraid of her because she was still upstairs.
Oh, my goodness. Wow.
So again, as a paranormal investigator, you have to be a counselor.
Mm-hmm.
Just going in with an EVP recorder and a camera going, "Oh, yes, the house is haunted." Well, the clients know that. That's why you're there.
Right. Yeah. So how did you resolve that?
We had a couple of mediums in the group. During this time, I was doing the technical stuff, so I can't really shift from the science side to the metaphysical side. Mm-hmm. It's really, really hard. So we have one of our mediums in the group get the woman to cross over. I think she left, but she can come back in as spirit form, which is a higher level energy. The male didn't want to leave. He wasn't ready. But we got him settled down to the point where he doesn't show himself with a disfigured face to the kids.
Oh, that's good.
So that was a good step. Mm-hmm. And we did explain to him, you need to go home, you need to rest. There are people on the other side that will help you. Mm-hmm. They'll give you the healing that you need.
Right. Exactly. And then usually it sounds like they do listen.
Most of the time. Like I said, you're dealing with free will. You can't really forcefully move a spirit from one place to another.
Right. Yeah. And some do. I mean, some of these quote-unquote hunters seem like they try to do that. Get a little cheap.
Free will goes everywhere. It's in our lives. When you pass over, it's with you over there. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And what keeps coming to mind for me when I think about a lot of this stuff is, well, I keep seeing like they're predators, like insofar as when people transfer out and say they're disconnected and they had a rough transfer and they don't know where to go. What if there are predators that are there to confuse them even worse and keep them from ascending to another level of spirituality? Do you ever get that? Like there's something there that's holding them back that's not them?
Yeah. Depending on the case, I'll give you an example. About 10, 15 years ago, I did a case in Minneapolis where there was a family of a spirit. There was a male, the husband, a female, the wife, and 2 children. The male entity would not allow the other spirits to move on. Was holding them back. We had problems trying to get a portal open, trying to get the angels come in, trying to get my spirit guides to come in. He was just that strong. We found out that this male we would classify him as a pedophile in this day and age. And he was afraid to let his family cross over because he was going to be judged.
Interesting.
That he was going to be sent to hell. And what we did in that case is we explained to him, we're not here to judge you. We don't have that ability or that authority. The only person that has that authority is the Great Spirit, which is God. And by you acknowledging what you have done, that is the first step for forgiveness. After about 6 trips to the house, we finally got that entity to move on, to release the children and his wife, so at least they can be at peace.
Right, no kidding.
So they were gone. He never left. He's still in the house.
That's interesting. Well, that's kind of creepy crawly on so many different levels if they're predators like that. And then when I think about it, with all that going on, it seems like we have stuff like this happening here, obviously, in across the globe with pedophiles and all that stuff. So it makes me wonder if there's not an energetic that's associated with attacking just regular people on this timeline that's trying to stop them from ascending for the same reason, that they're afraid of being judged. And so they want to keep everybody in a stasis of non-evolution because they are afraid to go and meet their quote-unquote maker after their, what they've been doing here on this world. What do you think?
Give me a moment. Let me ponder that.
Okay. Well, it just reminds me of a lot of things that parallel each other. With one dimension, it seems like another one parallels. And even though that was a different situation, it seems like we're dealing with things in limitation here on this timeline. At least it does to me. We were talking about evil earlier, and that's such an oppressive energy, and it creates so much trauma. And of course, when you're just killing people right and left, that's creating more trauma. And I have to ask you, with your background, it seems like this whole thing that you do is almost preparing you for a very big, I don't want to say mission, but something bigger and beyond it all, because I feel like you're going to have to be moving a lot of people or helping them move to the next level. That's just my own take on it.
I hope not.
Well, it seems to be part of your DNA. But, what I'm saying, we're going to have some problems here. If people are having a hard enough time, if spirits are having this much problem trying to move from one dimension to the next, can you imagine with all the chaos on the world right now how it's going to be when these people transfer out?
Oh, geez.
That's what I'm wondering. I'm talking about craziness, and so that's why I believe in spiritual preparation and a higher level of understanding what's out there in the multiverse and also being connected to whatever you want to call the highest form of God, because it's really important that people stay connected and don't nosedive into all this evil that's just guarding us.
You see, I wonder if maybe, and this is my personal beliefs, my goal, my belief, my purpose here is to help minister the goodness to other people. I don't think dealing with the spirits is a priority anymore. Helping them. Someone calls me up and say, "Hey, my house is haunted. Come and check it out." And once we get there, we explain to them, this is what free will is, this is what's going on. I think it's more of talking with the clients and getting them to open up and see what's really going on. Look at the different possibilities. Look at the goodness, prepare them, try to show them a new way or a higher way of thinking.
Right. Yeah. I can see that. Well, that's part of the bigger scenery. That's the bigger picture, because these people eventually will transfer out, and once again, you're giving them keys and things to work on so that they can progress to the next level when it is their time. So you are doing a heck of a good service here on this planet. I want to thank you again for the work you're doing here. I think it's important.
Thank you.
I really do. A lot of people poo-poo and laugh about the paranormal and this and that and the ghosts, and it's only because of the mainstream crap. I mean, you can't pay attention to that stuff because that's not what it's about. It's about what the type of work you're doing. That's what it's about. And I think that's very important.
Well, yeah, and that's one of my biggest pet peeves. People who know me on Facebook, every time someone starts posting about paranormal conventions and, such and such from Ghost Hunters or such and such from Ghost Adventures is going to be there, it's like, really? Come on, folks. Mm-hmm. Look at what they're doing.
Exactly.
They're making a mockery out of investigators like myself, who's doing this for the passion, who's doing it to help people. I could care less if my name is out there or not. My goal is to do whatever my soul is meant to do.
Exactly.
And if it's out there helping people, showing them peace, teaching them how to use their abilities, or just answering just normal questions, then I'm happy. I am doing my job.
Exactly. And the thing is, there's this sensationalism about it, and that's the problem, I think, that we have with the mainstream and all that stuff. I was going to ask you real quick, when you go to the cemeteries and you get your EVPs, do you ever feel guided to do some kind of a mass prayer for those beings, or is there anything like that goes on that will help them settle, or maybe move to a next level? I doubt anything's really left over in those graveyards or cemeteries, are there?
Cemeteries are not supposed to be haunted. There's no connection there, as in no traumatic events happen. The only connection a person would have is that the physical body is there. And that's it. Now, I've been to a couple cemeteries within the past couple of years, and I've gotten some really weird EVPs. One of them was a man saying, "Let's scare them," referring to myself and a couple of my friends. So they kind of hang out there, but when I'm at a cemetery and I get EVPs, I will do what I can from a medium point of view of helping them to cross over. Why are you still here? Are you trying to get back to your physical body? Explain to them that, it's God. You'll never come back to the physical world in that body. You'll come back at a later date in reincarnation.
Right.
But not right now. So I will try and help them to move on.
That's good. And with the EVPs, obviously it sounds like the voice patterns are all very different. They're not the same, right?
No, they're always different. There's different accents, different phrases. One of the houses that we're doing down in Lake City, Minnesota, the male entity there was using a term called HOS, H-A-U-S, which is a term back in 1800 as for friend.
Interesting.
And I made a comment. I said, well, I'm going to turn off the recorder because we're going to go home. We need a rest, and you have used a lot of your energy to talk to us. I thank you. Is there anything you want to say to us before we leave? And the reply was, thank you, Hoss.
Oh, wow.
And it's like, oh, wow, it's like, great, thank you very much. Wish him a good night, and then left.
That's really neat. That's a cool story. That's pretty nice. Yeah, the good communications, It's just really neat. So most of the time, it sounds like you get very positive feedback when you're capturing voices.
Most of the time, we will get some EVPs where they're cussing at you.
Really? They actually swear?
Oh, God, yeah.
Wow.
We had one case, and I wish I can remember what case it was. but we were at a house, and I do apologize for my language, but I was called a pussy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, really? Do you want to go down this road? Do you want to pick a fight? Obviously, I didn't pick a fight with them because I'm not going to fight the undead, because I will lose every time because you can't see them coming.
Right. Yeah.
But we will get sweared at like that.
Wow.
We'll be called names, and that's more of an intimidation that they're trying to do. They're trying to get my energy or the client's energy up to a level where they can absorb it.
Right, they
engage.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And if we don't show that fear, then they can't feed off of you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I tell a lot of my clients and my team, the only thing you have to fear is fear itself.
Yep, indeed.
Which is totally true. If you go in and you're not afraid and you're confident in yourself, you don't have to be confident in your own religious beliefs, but confident in the way you handle yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And not be afraid. 9 times out of 10, these entities that are trying to intimidate you it's not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
Don't feed the monster. Don't give them the energy that they need.
I so agree. Yeah.
So they're so much easier to work with without that energy.
Mm-hmm. I think you really hit a good point there. They do feed off of drama, negativity, anger, rage, fear, all those things. Just like we were talking about the alcohol earlier on. I mean, they feed off of all of that. So it's just about staying centered and maintaining a balance in your life, for sure. Now, do you notice portals inside these homes that you do investigation? Is there always a portal, or does that have to be there or not?
There's some new technology, new theories coming out with portals. I begin to think portals are more of a wormhole, which has been proven with chaos theory, string theory, where energy can be transferred from one dimension to another, from one location to another. Mm-hmm. I don't think that every house that's haunted has a portal. Mm-hmm. I think once a person passes over, they get that chance. Do you want to keep continuing to the next level, or do you want to return to your heaven? And I think they just go to where they want to go, and they're just there.
Right. I'm almost wondering, do you think the body creates the portal at the time of their departure? The physical body, you know how the chakras are like dimensional gateways. Do you think there's a possibility that that's happening?
I don't know. It could be, but I really don't know. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was just curious about that. It just seems like something opened up. It's fascinating, it really is. Have you ever used, I know this may sound morbid, but have you ever used, first of all, the EVPs? Have you ever done the device in the morgue or maybe at someone's departure at the time of their transfer?
I thought about it, but there's a moral issue that I have. Mm-hmm. I just had a friend just pass away a couple months ago, and she died suddenly, and she actually made a visit to me one morning. I was sound asleep, and I heard a female's voice saying, "Hey, John, good luck." Okay. There was nobody in the house. My wife and kids were with the in-laws on vacation in South Dakota. I didn't know that this person died. Mm. And it was really shocking. Now, she was really big into the paranormal. She enjoyed those shows. She was into theta healing energies and things like that. And I was going to bring my recorder to either the wake or to the service. But a moral dilemma came up. It's like, is that really appropriate to do? Mm-hmm. How would the normal people react, like her family? Right. But, this is time for them to grieve for the loss of their loved ones. Not time for me to whip out a recorder and go, "Hey, are you here? Do you like your funeral?" Yeah. There's a respect there, and I think that's one of the places where an EVP should not be done.
Right. I can respect you for that. I think that's a good idea. I was just curious. So, yeah.
Now when I die, I'm putting it out there. Bring your recorders.
Everybody's going to get an EVP from you, huh?
Everyone will get an earful. Bring your gears. Set it up at the wake. We'll have fun. That's
great. Yeah. Well, it's nice to think about when we do depart from this world that there's a celebration of spirit instead of remorse. The good moments, we always respect those moments in time, opposed to the sad moments. So hopefully that's the case with everybody. But yeah.
I mean, I used to be very afraid of death.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just human nature. I mean, I don't want to die. I'll miss my family. I miss my friends. I don't want to see them going through the grief.
Mm-hmm.
But I understand that's the part of the process of the soul. For the soul to grow, it needs to experience that type of trauma, that type of event. So I don't worry about death as much.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have learned to, like I said earlier, to try and love people more, be more compassionate towards the people, more understanding, but also be understanding that those on the other side.
Exactly.
They're not evil most of the time. They're not evil. They're not there to harm you. If they're moving things around, if they're trying to get your attention, that's what they want. They want recognition.
Mm-hmm.
They want someone to say, yes, I know you're here.
Yeah,
now, stop bugging me.
Or at least want to say hello. I hear that a lot of them use the lights. They love to work with lights and overhead and dining table lights and things like that.
Oh, yeah. Well, a ghost cannot walk up to you and go, hi, how you doing? I'm haunting your house. They can't do that. So they have to do something to really get your attention. Mm-hmm. And in this day and age, we're bombarded with the internet, with TV, radio, Xbox, everything else, stress. So we are totally oblivious to what's out there.
Mm-hmm.
We can't pick up on the subtle things.
Right.
So they have to go to the next level to really get our attention, moving furniture around, turning lights on and off.
Yeah, that's interesting about the furniture. And if memory serves, you have a haunted house that you actually live in, right?
Yes.
Is it still active?
Not as it used to be, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the spirits in the house really enjoyed what we've done to it because we kind of refurbished to back what it was.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're kind of like, you know what? These are good people. We'll let them go. Now, we do see them occasionally. We'll see things out of the corner of our eyes, and we'll get a smell of coffee or tobacco in the house. But that's just their way of saying, hey, we're here.
Right. Yeah.
And we have a general understanding, if you don't make a fuss, I won't kick you out.
Mm-hmm.
We can live here peacefully. We can coexist. If you want my attention, you either come to me or you come to my wife. You don't bother my kids.
Yeah.
That's a no-no.
It's like you have housemates.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if they want to surprise me by leaving little coins and stuff, as long as they're very valuable, I don't mind.
Hey, do they do that? Do they leave coins?
Of course not.
I was going to say that'd be cute. You've heard of the little people, right?
Yeah.
What is your take on those? Do you think there are little beings like that come and go in people's homes? I know they associate them with over there, like in Ireland and Scotland, but I was thinking more so around people's homes.
Well, we have little fairy doors in some of the rooms.
Nice.
For the kids. And we kind of make jokes about it. If you're missing something, that means the fairy needed that piece of items, like socks or my kids' cars, little matchbox toys, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And occasionally my daughter, Scarlett, will say things like she'll see something next to the fairy door. Or that's where the fairies come out of.
Oh, that's cute.
And we don't discourage that. We just go, yep, that's where they come out of, and they kind of watch over you while you're sleeping. So she's fine with it.
Well, that's good. Yeah, well, I'm a firm believer in all different kinds of life forms and other dimensions. I mean, we're not the only ones that are here, whether it's a spirit or a ghost or another type of being that lives in another dimension parallel to this one. I think anything's a possibility.
Oh, anything is.
Yeah, anything
and
is
that's,
healthy.
And yeah, I mean, that's the thing, being a paranormal investigator, you have to keep your mind open.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Even if it sounds so far-fetched, you know what? 100 years ago or 150 years ago, people didn't think you could fly.
Mm-hmm.
And now we've got a space station above the planet.
Yeah, really. Look how fast
anything is possible.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you haven't seen it yet doesn't mean it does not exist.
I so agree with that. Yeah, it's really amazing when you think about it. Well, it's a busy highway out there, as I always say. I mean, it's a big highway with lots of different beings and things like that. So what's your take on solar energy, and how does that affect, if it does at all, a home or with spirits? Would you say it enhances or dispels paranormal activity?
I think it enhances.
Yeah?
I keep track of the solar activity when I'm out doing investigations. I go to like spaceweather.com or up to the NASA homepage just to see what solar winds are doing, if there's any solar flares, CMEs coming off the sun heading towards Earth. And I kind of start planning my investigations around that to see if there's an increase in the natural EMF fields of the planet. Mm-hmm. And I find out that if there's a very high impact of a CME, of a solar flare, activity does increase, but it's enough to where you might see a full body apparition, or you might hear something. And it's kind of like the spirits are getting like a natural energy boost.
Right. Well, that makes sense.
So,
yeah.
But it only lasts a very short time, and it's a hit and miss.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, there are times where I've seen the opposite: high solar flares, low paranormal events.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's interesting. So what about the aurora borealis? Have you ever witnessed it?
Oh, yeah, we get them up here constantly up in Minnesota.
Okay, so what's your impression of that connecting to paranormal at all, if at all?
I think it charges the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps it balanced, but not enough to say that it really affects a haunting.
Okay. Have you ever tried seeing if there were more EVPs during an aurora?
Yes. I've tried to do EVPs in the house here during the Northern Lights and also at a local cemetery. And it's a hit and miss.
Is it? Oh, that's interesting. So what about telephone lines? Have you ever used your device around telephone lines, like the old-fashioned kind?
No, not anymore. We don't have any. We don't have any telephone poles in this neck of the woods anymore.
Oh man, everything is underground now, isn't it?
That or it's all wireless.
Oh wow! I remember the old days. I guess I must be old. Yeah.
I remember the old dial telephones, and yeah.
Man, so I would think that would be kind of cool to check it out and see what you get. I mean, you might be getting a real-time conversation. Who knows? But yeah, that's that's pretty wild. Goodness.
Well, I know that there's in the past, if you go to at the website itc.com or is it .org, where they've actually used a telephone to communicate with the other side.
A real telephone or a cell phone?
A real telephone. No, a real telephone. Where they hooked it up, I don't know what kind of device they hooked it up to, but it was enough to power it and have the spirit call, and it would ring the phone.
Oh, wow.
Even though it's not hooked up to an outside line.
That's kind of creepy.
It is. I've read it. I've never tried it. With my luck, I probably could billed for the telephone company for an interdimensional phone call.
Oh, that's funny. You know, you should try that sometime and see if it works. It always reminds me of Carol Ann, from Poltergeist. Didn't she have a little phone in that movie? She's talking to somebody on the phone.
Oh, yeah,
it wasn't the Twilight Zone episode. Yeah, it's just something I remember the kid and the telephone, and then there was someone on the line. Might have been Twilight Zone, now that I think about it. Why?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, anything's possible. And there was that one Twilight Zone episode with the lady, and remember was it her husband or somebody who was calling her from the grave when the wire fell onto the grave? Do you remember that episode?
No, I don't remember that.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to send it to you. I think it was the Twilight Zone. Yeah, that was pretty cool. Correct me if I'm wrong, you guys, but I'm pretty sure it was. But yeah, fascinating. So as we progress into the evening here, I can't believe we've flown by in the show, but we didn't really talk about ghost stories. Is there anything you wanted to share with a ghost story?
Ghost stories, wow. Ghost stories are so cool because there's a lot of folklore.
Mm-hmm.
You heard about the ghost stories of, the boyfriend, girlfriend, they go out in the woods and the car stalls out and the boyfriend goes out to see he says it's not tired and he starts walking. And then you have the hook man. I love ghost stories. One of my favorite ghost stories is the one that is down in southern Minnesota in a town called Ravenstar, Minnesota, where Grumpy Old Men was filmed. Mm-hmm. There's a hotel there called the Anderson Hotel. And there's a story there that this lady was engaged to a riverboat captain. And on the day of their wedding, he was supposed to come off the boat, and they were supposed to get married that afternoon. And the ferry boat, the paddle boat, capsized. And she was devastated. And she stayed up there in this hotel waiting for him. And she's never left. And when we went there to check it out, we got an EVP saying, "I miss him so much."
Oh, wow. My goodness. That's sad when you think about that.
That is sad.
I mean, is that just a folk tale, or is that for real?
Well, some of it was the riverboat captain and the lady were supposed to be married. There was a boating accident where he died.
Mm-hmm.
People had seen this lady, seen a female apparition in this hotel room, but no one has actually went inside of that room to see if she's there. It's always from outside the street. So it was one of those things that kind of circulated through the town of Wabasha over the past 100 and some odd years.
Wow. Well, I suspect there are some sad spirits around. I wouldn't be surprised at all. There's some that feel a little lost, maybe here and there. I mean, regular people who are alive get like that. They have despair and, they don't know where to go sometimes. You see it every day.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really interesting. And I want to make sure, how can people get in touch with you if they want to contact you for any reason?
Yeah, just you can get me on Facebook, because I'm usually there every day, almost 24 hours a day. Just look up John Savage, Minnesota Paranormal. That's how you can get a hold of me, or you can use my email address, which is MN as in Minnesota, TIG as in the animal, at netzero, all spelled out, .com.
Excellent. Yeah, I do want to thank you. We still have a little bit of time left, but I want to really thank you, John, for showing up and being part of this, I guess it's after Halloween-ish, Samhain-ish kind of ghost storytelling, paranormal stuff.
Well, as an investigator, every day is Halloween for us.
That's right. I was going to say, every day. Yeah, so sure takes a lot of your time up. So what's your impression of mirrors? Do you think they're haunted? Mirrors? Do you think
mirrors?
Yeah.
I know that over in the UK, you can use mirrors during your investigation. If you pour water on a mirror and just stare into it or look into it, you can see the reflection of a spirit behind you looking at you.
Like
at a haunted location.
Well, that's interesting.
Exactly.
Wow, have you tried that?
I haven't tried the mirror, but I tried the candle version of it.
Mm-hmm.
Of doing that with a past life, where you have a candle in front of you, you're looking at the person across from you, and you're focusing on their third eye, the top chakra. So you're sending energy back and forth to each other. And as you're watching the person, you can see their face disappear.
Right.
And you can see another face being superimposed on it. Now, I've seen a lot of stuff in my lifetime. When I had this done to me, I fell off the chair.
Really?
And screamed. Well, I didn't scream like a girl, but I went, holy. I wasn't prepared to see another person's face in front of me.
And was that person supposed to be you or the other person's past life?
The other person's past life.
Oh, wow. And it wasn't distortion from the flame or lighting or anything like that?
No.
Oh, wow.
So we've taken that, and we'll use that on the investigations now.
Oh, really?
Where we'll ask the spirit to sit in front of us and superimpose their face onto whoever's sitting in front of me.
Oh, that's creepy.
And we will ask, right now we're trying to get a sketch artist in the group, but we'll ask someone to draw what I'm seeing or what someone else is seeing as we're looking at it. So that's a very helpful piece of equipment.
Oh, yeah, I bet. Yeah, it sounds like you could get some really good imagery. Are you able to take a picture in the dark when you're seeing these things? Can you capture an image?
We've tried, and we've gotten some images, but the way that we've taken the pictures, the camera, it looks like it's been shaking, like there's movement in low light, but you can see distortion in the person's face, and another face superimposed on it. Now, if you look at it from a scientific point of view, people just dismiss it as motion blur. But some of the pictures that were taken during one of my sessions coincides with what I was seeing and describing.
Wow. Yeah, it certainly sounds like it. Do you ever use EVPs with those as well?
Yep.
Oh, do you get dialogue? Do you get some communication?
From time to time, we do. We found out that if you're doing an EVP session, it's better just to leave the machine running and talking versus standing there going, what is your name? When did you die? Right. Yep. Because if you leave it running and you're talking about them, in general, they're going to jump into conversation. It's like a group of people just standing around talking. They're going to throw their 2 cents in because they feel a part of that conversation. But yet we're not intruding on them. We're not focusing on them.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah. What about a television set? Would the EVPs, would the spirits hitch a ride on a TV set the way, and you'd be able to capture through EVP too, or no?
Actually, there's a thing called video voice phenomena, I believe it is, where you take a TV screen, you turn it on, but it's not tuned into any channel. You hook up your video camera to the TV. You start recording, so you're taking a picture of a picture of a picture into infinity. Now, if on playback, you're supposed to, if you look real hard, you can see images of people from the other side.
Oh, wow.
This experiment was done back in the 80s, and there was a TV show called Sightings.
I remember.
Okay, one of the best shows out there. I fell in love with it. And they had an episode where they showed this actually being done. And you can see the faces forming on the video screens.
Oh, wow. That's wild.
Now, I've tried it a couple of times, and I had zero luck. But I think with technology the way it is now, I might try it again pretty soon. Yeah, I would if I were you. I wonder, even with iPhones and things like that, I mean, it seems to me like anything electrical would be, kind of like open field day for these beings if they wanted to interact with them. And once again, we were talking about the electricity, and obviously they get your attention by interfering with electrical, right? Correct. So does that happen all the time when you're doing investigations, or is it just once in a blue moon when you get kind of a moody spirit? It's a hit and miss. I mean, there's always someone within one of my investigators will always complain about the batteries draining out of the cameras.
Right.
Or the computer shutting down and rebooting itself. Sometimes we'll have different times on our cell phones, the clocks.
That's interesting.
Which time slips.
Wow. Do you ever have any missing time or anything like, you know?
There's times where we'll start an investigation. I'll give you a case in point. We started one at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and a couple of hours later, we're about to finish up. We look at our watches, and it's like, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. There's no way. It feels like it's 9 or 10 at night. The perception of time has totally changed for everybody on the investigation.
Oh, wow.
That could be, is that because we were so focused on what we're doing that our concept of time was gone?
Really? Yeah, you're in another dimension, right? Did you actually move your consciousness to their realm?
I think so, yes.
I do too. Wow. Now that leads me to ask you a real quick question. Do you get hitchers after these investigations that come home with you, and do you dream about them?
Yes.
You do? Okay.
We do our best to try and leave the spirits at the location.
Mm-hmm.
Safety is number one for all my crew members and the clients. But we do say, we're now leaving. No one is allowed to follow us. You're not welcome to come home with us. I've got enough for you guys here to keep me busy. I don't need more people here.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they will come with, but they only stay for a couple of days. After all, the energy fades out, and they just leave. Now, with dreams, I will have more dreams before the investigation versus after the investigation.
That's interesting.
Because I'm already putting the intent out there of, I'm going to this location, who is there? And that's when I'm using my mediumship in dream state to get that information.
Yep, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, so you're already tuned in through consciousness.
Yep.
That's fascinating. Yeah, that totally works. It's just like distant healing. It's the same intent. When you put the intent out, sometimes people will receive a healing like days before they actually supposed to actually have a scheduled healing, for example, things like that. I've had
same thing with remote viewing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it?
And there's nothing like scaring the daylights out of someone when you do a remote viewing.
Yeah, and they pick up on it, right?
Well, when you're talking to a client, and I'll do a remote viewing while I'm talking to them,
mm-hmm.
and when I start describing little things like a candy jar on the table and what's in it, and the way that the floor plan's laid out,
nice.
That can really get them going.
Oh, I bet. No, that's awesome. No, you're definitely very, very gifted. You really are. What a blessing you are. And, we're getting ready to wrap this up in just a few minutes here, but I did want to thank you again, John, for joining us tonight. It's been awesome to have you on. It's always a pleasure to have you on. I'm always honored to get you on my show. You're one of the best out there. I think the best, as a matter of fact. And so I like to.
Thank you.
Yeah, I totally like to promote you whenever I can. And of course, you're just so genuine. Like I said before, what we love about you is you're sincere and you do the good work and fight the good fight. So just want to appreciate that. And also let everybody know if there's anything you wanted to mention real quick before we wrap this up. Anything you'd like to? If you have anything going on, any speaking engagements or anything?
No, I normally don't do speaking engagements anymore, just because of the media hype, because they always ask questions like, "Did you do what they do in Ghost Hunters?" And it's like, I'm gonna shoot you pretty soon. I'm gonna throw a shoe at you if you ask me another dumb question. I am planning next year to get back into the field of teaching people about the paranormal.
Excellent.
The stuff that you don't see on TV, the true investigators.
Fabulous. Is that going to be just in Minnesota, or are you going to travel? What do you think you're going to do with that one?
I would love to expand it out to conventions and things like that.
Awesome. Well, keep me informed. I'll help promote that. I'd love to have you out here. That'd be awesome.
I mean, there's so many new generations of ghost hunters out there. Unfortunately, they're being taught by what they see on TV.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's up to us old dogs to point them in the right direction.
Right. Well, you're not that old. I think I'm older than you, but yeah, you're very experienced, and for sure you're very seasoned, without a doubt. So that's what we love.
Well, I'm only as good as my crew.
Well, you're all pretty darn good then. I give your crew a high five on that too.
Yeah, like I said, I couldn't learn what I've learned without my group and every member in there.
That's
so
cool. Sounds like a good team you have there, for sure. You should be proud.
I'm proud of them, yes.
Excellent. Be proud of yourself,
They're the
too.
best.
Yeah. And
thank you.
Did you write any books? You're not going to do any books or anything, or no?
No, there's nothing. No books, works, or anything like that.
Okay, well, let's hope you do some teaching, too, because that definitely needs to get out there in one form or another. If it's not through a book, then, I would suggest teaching and doing workshops or something. For sure.
I'm planning on it. I think that's where we'll be heading towards next year.
Excellent. So what about your kids? Are they getting involved in this? Oh, darn it, we're out of time. Well, listen, John, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Stay tuned for Shining That Out with David Dunger. Thank you. And Becky, coming up next to sell you on into the night. Thank you, everybody. Take care. Have a great night.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio.